Forsooth and verily do I see that you shall become champion at the spelling bee, and foil the plots of a dark lord somewhere along the way. But really, the verbosity and diversification of your vocabulary is the true path forward, young one. Yes. Hello there, everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Today, we're ditching all the clandestine activities, the skullduggery, the cloak and dagger goodness, and we are instead going to be talking about how to handle prophecies in today's quick tips for DMs. We are going to talk about how to implement it and what to do once your players either achieve it or if they have failed to follow through with the prophecy. And the results actually end up landing pretty close together, closer than you might expect. But before we get into all of that, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or if you've already gone on ahead and listed yourself on such an incredible roster of legendary heroes, then why not go on down and hit the like button and share the video far and wide. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, let's try to break the 2100 subscriber mark before the year is out. Not that my heart's set on the goal or anything, it just, I don't know, seemed like a fun thing to throw out there. But now, let's set all that aside and actually start talking about how to go about implementing and making use of prophecies in your game. And step one is always the hardest part, it's coming up with it. But if you're going to come up with it, it needs to play a central part in the story you want to tell. Or if the players want or a player, or however many players, want to have a prophecy as part of their character's story, part of their journey and arc over the course of this larger adventure that you might have planned, then that's the time to implement it. Either of those two scenarios, but they have to serve a narrative purpose. If you just throw out a random prophecy on a lark because it sounded like a good idea to you, it might end up being one of those plot threads that just kind of goes nowhere and gets dropped or overrides the story over the course of the game. Now, if it overrides and it becomes the main focus, that's less of an issue, and you still have all of your other notes to either adapt in or use for another adventure another time. Perfectly valid options there, but really only spend your time on it if it's really going to become part of the game. Much like how I like to have all the details in my world figured out, that's just something I personally like to do because I don't mind if my players just zoom all the way off the tracks. And I like to have that there just in case, just so that way I can come up with an answer for them on the fly or have answers already figured out, because the more details there are, the easier it is to kind of fill in the blanks. And same thing with similar idea with the prophecy, not the same thing. A prophecy that gets hyper specific actually is going to present a major problem for you, because now that it is so specific, that's going to make things really difficult, because a specific prophecy in theory is much easier to disrupt. And if you don't want it disrupted, then you're going to have to come up with or hope that everything goes according to plan. And for those of you who have been regular DMs, you should know by now that the players will never follow the plan accordingly. Hell, they won't even follow their own plans. They'll spend 20 minutes talking about a plan and then come up with something at the last second that they all go with because it was funny. Usually is, but anyways. So, a specific prophecy is a very specific detailed prophecy is going to be a lot trickier to pull off. The more you add into it, the worse it's going to get. It's better to be poetic, allegorical, metaphorical, make allusions to things, or make comparisons, or have things stand in for other things, like the golden circle comes tumbling down. Something like that. The golden circle, what could that be? That could be a crown. That could be a ring. That could be the sun. That could be the symbol of a knightly order of powerful warriors and wizards who are falling to their corruption. So their circle has come tumbling down. This golden circle is now tarnished and is corrupted. It's mired in filth and muck. that gets to be a lot more flexible and a lot easier, and allows you to kind of just put things in that fit. So that's going to make it much easier for you to implement prophecy. Another route that you can go with it, and this came from a 3.5 book, one of the Splat books that came out that introduced a couple of different advanced and prestige classes, and this one was called the Eye of Groomsh, I think. It was a prestige class that was specifically limited to orc characters who followed Groomsh, usually NPCs, but they would receive a prophecy, a vision of when they would die. So that way, they would fight in battle with no fear. They would be ferocious, believing that they were not going to die until such and such appointed time. Now, the nice thing about that was, because Groomsh traditionally is not a good aligned deity, they're usually chaotic evil or neutral evil, it makes it really easy to say, oh yeah, it wasn't a real vision. Groomsh didn't have any plans. He just wanted a faithful, willing killer that was going to throw themselves bodily into any fight that came their way, without any cowardice, fear, or backing down. And it fits. And you can do the exact same thing here. There's no reason you can't. Any number of prophecies can be a lie. Any mook can stand on the street corner and start yelling things at the sky or to anybody who will listen. And it might sound like prophecy, it might seem powerful, it might even be a powerful character who has truly and utterly gone mad and is now out there just spouting nonsense on the streets, distributing swords randomly, magic swords to farm hands, smart farm children. I did that once, but anyways. So, you can just outright lie about the prophecy, but if you're going to implement one that's going to be true, being poetic and taking some license with the imagery as standing in for symbolically for other things, that'll make it a lot easier for you to implement and build the adventure around, and by the time the players come to the end, whether they've fulfilled the prophecy or if they haven't, if the players win at the end of it, well, you can just write it off as they defied their prophecy. And how satisfying does that feel? They defied fate. The players literally changed fate by their own power. That's a great feeling to have. Most of your players are going to be sold on that. But if it's the kind of prophecy where you want these conditions set as a means to win and the players can't win without it, well, they're going to be in trouble. But a campaign that ends in failure can still be an incredibly compelling story. And it also sets up the next adventure, because now whatever darkness or terrible thing has happened, unless it's the utter annihilation of the world, like down to, the whole planet fractures kind of annihilation, not like, oh, meteors rained down and the landscape was changed. The landscape changing, that's easy pickings for a new adventure. In a high fantasy kind of wasteland survival game, that could be a lot of fun. But whatever route you go, if the players fail and it's a prophecy where they had to meet a certain number of conditions in order to have a shot at winning, then yeah, the story can end in failure. But that's okay too. That can be incredibly satisfying and motivate the players to make their new characters for the next step in the story or in the campaign, if that's what everybody wants to do. And then lastly, of course, there's if everything goes according to plan, they fulfill the prophecy or at least enough conditions of it to make it possible for them to win, then hooray, you look like a genius because you've left all these little breadcrumbs. You built all of this symbolism and allegory, and you got all the little pieces set up. And you could literally be making this up like week to week, maybe only like 2 or 3 sessions deep at best. And my experience, it's usually best not to plan specifically too far out. Definitely know where you're going with the story, who the big bad is, and what their overall plots and schemes are. But the rest of it, you can kind of build out from there as you progress through the story, because sure, you might be doing session zeros with your players to get this all established and figured out, let them know, oh, there's a prophecy in this game, if that's the kind of story you're going for, or and you might do the session 0 and get started, but as you get started and the players kind of have time to play off of you, each other, feel their characters out, if you're starting level 1 or even at level 3, the players might change their minds on how their characters are growing, progressing, and developing. So you might have to adjust the prophecy and even your adventure plans as you go along. You might have to rescale things a little bit because, well, if the group initially started off wanting to do something high power, rolling 46 on their stats and re-rolling the ones, taking the 3 highest, and they've got some high-end characters, with like an 18, a couple of 17s, and a 16, and nothing that came below a 10. You're going to be dealing with some very potent and capable characters overall. And, you might be planning out, okay, so I'm going to have to throw really higher level things at them. But then as they go, they might decide, I want to cross-class into this. It really feels like it would fit my character and the story. It's not the most effective build or combination ever, but it just seems appropriate to the story. Well, now you kind of have to readjust a few things a little bit here, just so that way you don't completely squash the party, but you get the point. At the end of the day, you need to be willing to adjust and move along, and using a prophecy is no different from any other part of planning in your adventure and your story. Keep it vague and symbolic enough that you can come up with different ideas, or leave room for the players if they come up with a better idea, which I promise you, if you're a new DM, that does happen. You'll have a great idea in your head, but damn it if the players didn't come up with something even better that just really fits, that you like. Do it and use it, because then the players are going to feel even more like they're solving this riddle on their own. And that's going to feel really good too, because I'm definitely the kind of DM where I feed off of the energy that the players are giving me. If they're having a great time, they're laughing, they're having fun, they're getting into it, they're getting sunk into the story and really start role-playing, nothing better. I promise you, nothing better than those moments in gaming, especially as a DM. So, yeah, play into it like that. So build decide if it's really what you want to do, or if it's what a player wants to do. Be vague with it. Be symbolic. Make it so that the symbols are something that can fit really easily. The golden circle that I referenced before, coming tumbling down, that fit 3 separate things. A crown, a ring, hell, it could fit gold coins, the sun, a circle of knights, or a circle of warriors and adventurers, a holy order, or a powerful order that was dedicated to, the defense of the realm, falling to corruption. That's an incredibly compelling story in and of itself, and trying to, scrub out the blemishes from the rings, bringing it back up to its full glory is going to require removing the corruption. That's going to mean removing each of the members of that circle. Legendary heroes in their own right. Legendary heroes who are going to have their own support systems and networks. Damn it, I might have to turn that into a story now. But anyways, what do you think? Go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Let me know your thoughts either way. Hit the like or dislike buttons and we'll engage in discussion in the comments down below. And what are some of the ways that you have implemented prophecy in your games? Do you use these ideas that I've recommended already? Or do you have other methods that you like to make use of? Share those thoughts for new DMs down below as well. And let's just keep the idea sharing rolling forwards. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time. Good gaming to you all. And you all have yourselves a good night.